Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, I'm Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. As you know, I've just come back from a vacation, and I got to Goa, India, and we spent a month there. Now, this is the story of my trip to Goa. It's where my parents came from, my grandparents came from, where I spent many summers under the mango trees in the sweltering heat. It's also the place that has led me back to where I need to be. I had this diversion when I went to India. I wasn't expecting to be there, I wasn't expecting to do what I did, and I learned 3 things. So what are those 3 things that I learned, and how do they pertain to you? The 3 things I learned was the importance of digestion and sleep. The second is the importance of food and types of food. And finally, despite the fact that I talk about breaks all the time on this podcast, they're not enough to avoid extreme stress. So let's start off with the first one, which is the importance of digestion and the avoidance of sleep. When you turn 40, my dentist said to me, you should go for an annual medical checkup. There I was on the dentist chair having a dental bridge fixed, and my dentist wasn't giving me dental advice. Instead, he was telling me to go see my doctor, even though I hadn't been sick a day for almost 20 years. And since my negligence with my flossing was costing me a small fortune, I decided to take the dentist's advice. I went and visited my doctor and did my first ever medical test. It wasn't good. My blood pressure wasn't high, but it wasn't normal either. My cholesterol and blood sugar was creeping up too. And yes, like clockwork, year after year, those numbers have been edging upwards. Sometimes they nudged their way downwards, but the general trend was not looking terribly good. Now, you know me, I'm the 3-month vacation, take weekends sort of guy. I work hard, but I take a lot of breaks to rest, to think, and just do nothing. And yet, all of that nothingness wasn't dropping the pressure. It wasn't dropping the cholesterol or the blood sugar. And then, I did something that made a huge difference to my life and my health. I went yet again on vacation, and this time to India. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with India. I grew up in Mumbai, I vacationed in Goa, and I traveled through many parts of India before I finally moved to New Zealand. India seeps within you as you hang around that subcontinent. The food, the culture, the languages, the history, and the science, it goes back thousands of years. This trip was exclusively about the monsoon, and it's something worth experiencing. It was about the food. It was most of all to see my parents who I hadn't visited in 5 years. Yet, within days of landing in Goa, my agenda was hijacked. Oh sure, I started out with the food and drink, but we also wanted to get a few massages. And that search for massages got us to an Ayurvedic center. Now, you probably heard of Ayurveda. It's an ancient system of natural healing in India. Some think that it's 5,000 years old, others believe it to be older, going back a whopping 10,000 years. But I wasn't there for any medical checkup, I was just there for the massages. Yet, life takes you down this diversion, and it's just where you need to be. It was July, the rain was coming down in torrents, and the doctor at the Ayurvedic center, he was just available. So he looks in my eyes and looks at my tongue and says, "We should do a blood test." And we found out that my blood pressure and cholesterol was pretty high. Now, what we had right before that, just before the trip to Goa, was the article writing course. And there were about 12,000 posts on the article writing course. There are 25 people, but they generate a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and we went through almost 1,000 posts a week. So there was that stress, but even as he was telling me about what to do next, he brought up this important yet obscure point. And this is the point that I want to get across. He said the reason why we have a lot of problems with our health isn't the food that we eat. That's not important. Food does make a difference, but the bigger problem is digestion. If we don't digest the food completely, it sits in our system and it becomes like the inner side of a kitchen pipe. It's got all this junk that starts to accumulate over the years, and it's that junk that causes a huge number of problems. So he put me on an Ayurvedic course to get rid of the junk. It was interesting, this course. Spanning over 11 days, it started mildly. At first, all I had to do was avoid oily food and not do any major exercise like swimming or doing anything of that sort. But then it got really weird. For breakfast, all I could have was liquid ghee. Now, I don't know if you know what ghee is, but it's like clarified butter, and this ghee was mixed with herbs. Ghee is a kind of saturated fat, and if you're trying to get someone's cholesterol down, it seems like the last thing that you want to dole out. And yet, it wasn't just a sip of ghee, it was 30 milliliters. And then it went progressively to 80, 130, and then finally 180 milliliters. That's almost a full glass. As it turns out, the ghee is supposed to permeate all the parts of your body, down to your fingers and toes. And then, to cut a very long story short, the ghee pulls all the impurities and chucks it into the stomach. And you know what happens next, right? So did the experiment work? If there's one thing I hate, it's a quick fix. I detest lemon diets and detox diets of any kind. I don't care to believe in the quick and easy. But there I was on vacation and keen to get the cholesterol and pressure down. And 11 days later, we had our results. The blood test before and after could not have been more dramatic. There was a plunge from abnormal to well within normal range. And in the process, I even lost about 3 kilos. That's about 6 pounds. I'm still losing weight. I'm down about 10 pounds, which is about 5 kilos, and it's still going down. But you know me, I'm skeptical about quick fixes, so when I got back to Auckland, I did another blood test. And I weighed myself again, and the blood test showed something remarkable. My current cholesterol and blood pressure was not only normal, but it was the best that it's ever been in 7 years. It's the digestion, said the doctor who put me through this treatment. Get the digestion right and you will find that a lot of things go perfectly well. And part of the issue was digestion, and part of the issue of digestion was eating foods that digest well. That we all know. But the second part was giving the food time to digest. I love my sleep because I sleep so little anyway, and I will take an afternoon nap when I can. Yet, it flies in the face of digestion. The moment you wake up, the body is running like a machine, and having any nap causes it to slow down. What doesn't help is that this nap is usually right after eating a meal. Now, it's not like I've not taken a nap since I got back to Auckland, but the concept of digestion is clear in my mind. And that was my first learning for this trip. I never realized how much digestion mattered. I ignored it for as long as I could, but then this whole Ayurvedic treatment came along and it proved that once your body is clear of the junk, it works more efficiently. But that's only the first part of this learning experience. The second factor was one of food and types of food. So what did I learn about food and types of food? I'm no vegetarian. If you look at my Facebook page, I'm updating it almost daily with some sort of food. And when you read The Brain Audit or many other books from psychotactics, it's quite clear that butter chicken takes a place of prominence. Even so, this trip changed my mindset a bit. And it's simply because I wasn't allowed to eat any meat or fish for that matter. My diet for at least 7 days was pretty Spartan. In India, we have a dish, it's called khichdi. It's a combination of spices, cumin, ghee, rice, and yellow moong dal. It's a dish that is very easily absorbed by the body, which is why it's often recommended to older people and for very young children. The version of khichdi I was allowed to eat was more basic. It consisted of yellow moong dal and rice tossed into a pressure cooker. So when I got to the other side, even the simplest vegetarian dish was amazingly tasty. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of vegetarian food, and if you've ever had the chance to visit India or to eat real Indian food, you'll know that there are over 150 types of vegetarian food for breakfast alone. And once I was off this Spartan diet, I wasn't that keen on meat anymore. Now, it's not like I haven't eaten any meat, it's just that I'm not keen anymore. And this is especially because I found there were so many different recipes. But to go back to my own culture, my Indian culture, and to find so much to eat, it took me completely by surprise. I don't know if a vacation will make such a change for you, but I think it just might. A trip like this to India or even to an Ayurvedic center, it could make a big difference to your mindset. I wake up every day and I enjoy exploring food that I can make in just 10 to 15 minutes. Food that may involve something as simple as rice flour and semolina. Food that's easier to make and digest. Food that's still extremely delicious and nutritious, and it's amazingly good for you. It's a change, but the biggest change of all was simply following that diversion, going down the road that it took me and placed me exactly where I needed to be. And this takes us to the third part, which is about breaks and how breaks are not enough to avoid stress. $11,645. Well, that's close to 12,000. And that's how many posts were generated in the 3 months of the article writing course. And though the course has just 25 clients, they have lots of activity, lots of assignments. So to have that many posts is pretty normal for a psychotactics course. What is not normal is having to write a whole new set of notes, new assignments, and re-record all the audio. That's what I had to do. That's what I did right before I went on vacation. And that's one of the recurring themes from most vacations. Almost always I'll work myself to a frazzle and then I'll go on vacation. And that's because I like to do so many things. I like to paint, I like to write, to deal with 10,000 posts. And most of all, it fits into my workday. I realized that the additional bit, like having to write the notes and re-record the audio, was just too much. And I know, it seems obvious to you. It's obvious that too much work is too much work, and all of that extra work leads to unwanted stress. Stress that directly leads to health issues. And that while I might take time off on weekends and vacation, there needs to be some more paring back. To be hit with such a blatantly obvious idea seems odd, and yet it's taken me a long time to figure this one out. For starters, taking weekends off was not obvious, but in late 2015 and then in 2016, I got it all under control. This trip underlined why my health was not as good as it could be. There is a direct link between too much stress and cholesterol and pressure. I get it. It took a while. I took many vacations, many weekends, but now I get it. I get that we all need to be less frazzled. I get the fact that vegetarian food and fruit is good for me. I get the digestion bit. This vacation was supposed to be about food. It was supposed to be about drink. It was about sleep. And we didn't get to eat the food we wanted. We were told to avoid alcohol during the treatment, which was almost the whole trip. And yes, no sleeping in the daytime. And yet, it's been one of the best vacations I've ever had. And that's because life takes you down a diversion. and it's exactly where you need to be. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. I know it's not a podcast about the stuff that we saw and the things that we did, but this is what happened. It taught me something that was amazing, that food, vegetarian food, and really most Indian food, South Indian food, is vegan. So if you're interested, then get to psychotactics.com. We have some recipes on the website, and we're getting a new website coming along as well. And we'll have more recipes. Stuff that doesn't involve 300 ingredients. So join us at psychotactics.com. If you're not already on the list, go on the list. If you're not a member of 5000 BC, then you know what I'm going to say next. You should join 5000 BC. A lot of people charge $97, $200 a month. It's $250 a year. I know, it's hard to believe, but it's true. So get to 5000 BC, ask your questions. I'm there to answer those questions. And I'll do it in a non-stressful way. For you and for me. That's me, Sean D'Souza, saying bye for now. And it's good to be back in Auckland. Still listening? We got back to Auckland and I started waking up at 10:30 a.m. I know, it's very hard for you to believe. Because I wake up at 4 a.m. every day. 10:30 seems like someone else. For a week, maybe 10 days, I woke up at 10:30 a.m. And I was not sleeping very late either, but I was just tired. And the reason we got so tired was that in Goa, you have a lot of stray dogs, and they run around barking all night long. And of course, the locals don't seem to pay attention to them, but we foreigners, we woke up and we stayed up for half the night. And then by day, because of the treatment, I was not allowed to sleep. And so when we got back, I think the body just kicked in and goes, go to sleep. So 10:30 a.m., and then 6:30 a.m. And today I was up at 4 a.m. I think I'll push it a bit, maybe get up at 5:30 for a while before I get back to the 4 a.m. routine. And that's me, Sean D'Souza, saying bye for now. Bye-bye.